What's up, everybody? Sober Identity Podcast. We're here once again. I'm so excited, like I always am. You hear me say that all the time, but it truly is a fact. I've just been so encouraged and just been so excited to hear all these different stories of the people that I've had on. Today is no exception to that. I've got Dave Rushing here. He is a super amazing guy. I've actually just met him through the sober community on Instagram and through a group that he started up called Dude Sober. And so it's so fun to actually have him in person here on the show. So welcome, Dave. I want to get going right into it, man. I'd like to know. I want to go back to the Dave who was a drinker because I think a lot of people that are listening to this show, they're on that curiosity side of things. They're sitting on the fence. They're like, I don't know if I have a problem. Like, I like to drink. I've kind of thought maybe I need to move away from that, but maybe your story can shift them in that direction. So if you and I were going to go out for happy hour, the old Dave sitting next to me at the bar, how would you describe yourself when you were a heavy drinker?
Golly. Well, one, I rode that fence of do I have a problem and should I stop for a long time? So I understand that feeling. I can relate to it if you're out there sitting on that fence. But me back then was the type that would go out. I'd say that I'm going out, want to have fun. I would think that I was the life of the party because I'd be the jokester of the group, but I didn't have an off switch, where some people I could go and hang out with could throw back a couple beers at a happy hour. I would ride straight through the happy hour and keep going into the night with my foot on the gas pedal completely. I didn't have an off switch at all. I wanted to be the hype guy. If there wasn't a round of shots in front of us, I wanted to bring another round of shots. And I recently just had this realization too, that if there was someone with me that maybe could sit there and have one drink, I would apply the pressure. Come on, let's just have a shot. Let's get a round of shots. And in hindsight, in my seat now, looking back, I did that because I was uncomfortable that somebody could sit there and have just one drink. That made me feel super insecure about that because I didn't have that capability to do that. So I'd apply the pressure and then I would try to put out the dialogue that that person didn't know how to have fun or let loose. It took a long while to realize that I didn't need to have any alcohol at all to have fun. I, in fact, can have fun without it. But once I kept going, I would reach a point where I wasn't the fun guy anymore. I would get really agitated, really irritable, and at that point, I'd be taking my anger out at those closest to me. Relationship took a hard hit during my drinking days, and I'm lucky enough that we came out of it through rehab and a lot of work, and we were in a better place than we've ever been. But I did a lot of damage there, and there had to be a lot of repair made. I would make jokes at people's expenses, all things that I thought were fine and fun at the time, but realizing now it was coming from kind of what we were saying before we recorded is a lot of insecurity. And if I could deflect and put that uncomfortableness onto other people, I didn't have to feel it myself. But yeah, I would just go, go, go. That's who I was. No stop. And it slowly progressed to on my off days, I would start to day drink early and then, keep going. I'd have a lull in the middle of the day because I did have to like get kids from school and all that, which is a whole nother thing I had to come to grips with that I would rationalize things by saying, well, I took a nap before I went to pick my kids up. I'm okay. I slept that first part of the day off, right? I'd go pick my kids up. And that's one of the harder things that sits with me, still to this day. If I think about it, it still eats at me. But, I realize I'm not that person anymore. My kids are seeing a totally different person now, and I've been open and upfront with them about everything. I've owned all my actions to them, and that's been a huge blessing through this whole process is that they've accepted it and they love who they see now. But yeah, kind of sums
Yeah.
it up.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And I know you and I would have been best buddies back in the day. I was the same way, Dave. Like, honest to God, I was that guy, and it turned into a competition for me a lot of times. But it truly was a royal insecurity I was bringing to the table of just like I needed the drink first and foremost, just to
Mhm.
just like kind of like settle in. If I have half an IPA in me, like cool, now I can actually have this discussion. I can chill out. And then it was a like, yeah. I'd finish my second, and it's like, yeah, let's have another round. And then before you know it, like I'm the only guy having another round, right? And I was just like, yeah, whatever, without even being understanding of what actually was going on. But yeah, it's wild to think back. So where did that transition really happen for you? Because I've heard this story a lot from people, and I can resonate to it with you as well, of like being the guy like, yeah, we party hard and I push the limits and force people into more drinks, to then starting to transition into the, this is starting to get a little more negative, a little more painful, a little more scary. Like, can you describe where that kind of happened in your drinking days?
Yeah, I think I had several shifts like that. One, when I got separated from my ex-wife, I was living with a friend and didn't have a place to take my kids, and that was a really dark time for me. So I did a lot of like taking my kids out and drinking and driving with my kids in the car, and things were getting really bad because I was feeling bad about myself about not being able to provide for them at that time. So it started to get really dark then. And then as I transitioned into getting a home with my girlfriend and having a place for my family to be again, that was cool. That was like a huge positive. And I went kind of back into where I would have a six pack and a tall boy a night, you know. And for me, that was quote unquote what normal drinking was. Like I went to work every day, I held down a job, I'd come home and I'd only drink after work. So that was what normal people do, right? And then that progressed to where I was just um getting getting angry, and I couldn't really pinpoint like what I was getting angry about. And it wasn't until I was in rehab where I realized what was going on. But I was dealing with a lot of not really allowing myself to be happy with where I was at. I didn't feel like I deserved any of these great things that were around me, so I never got a chance to soak them in and reap the benefits of having a home and a family around me. You know, I didn't grow up with that. My parents gave me away when I was younger, so I had abandonment issues, I had abuse issues, lots of trauma I was dealing with, that I would just tell myself that everything was okay. I'm over it. I'm an adult now. Like I grew out of it. Doesn't have any effect on me, when in reality it did. And I never really got a chance to process it. So that would all come out in anger, you know, because I wanted to run from it and hide from it and drink away all of that pain and suppress it. But it had to come out somehow. And unfortunately, when I was drinking, it came out with anger. And then if I could get mad at somebody else, it took the heat off of me. I didn't have to look at myself. And then I'd wake up in the morning and I'd start the process of, I'm sorry that I acted that way. You know, I didn't mean to. I was drinking, and all those excuses would start. I'd wake up with the thought of like, I'm not going to drink tonight because I did that the night before. And then I'd go to work or whatever would happen during the day. I'd find an excuse that would frustrate me, and that would be my reason to start drinking again. You know, something didn't go right that day, and that was my reason to crack open a beer, you know, and it just started to become a cycle. And then as I went into like my last year of drinking, specifically probably like the last 6 months of it, my anger just became really bad, and it was lashing out like even in front of the kids, and they were seeing it. I began to not really like who I was seeing in the mirror. And I kept having the thoughts float around that I needed to make a change and I needed to stop. I would tell myself I'm only going to drink on the weekend, or um, I'm gonna not drink Monday and Tuesday and I can have a midday drink or whatever. But you know, none of that ever really panned out. I never really went a significant amount of time without drinking. Finally, I had a really, really bad day. I passed out in the lawn of someone's house, and my girlfriend found me there at 3 o'clock in the morning, and that was it. Enough was enough for me. I was 42 years old at the time, waking up in someone's front lawn, and that was the moment that I woke up. You know, it wasn't like this huge rock bottom where I lost my home and lost my job and all of that. And I think when people think of rock bottoms, that's what they're looking to see. And for me, I learned that anybody's rock bottom can be their own. It doesn't have to be the loss of everything. It just has to be that moment where you've had enough, you know, and that was mine. I made the change. I went to rehab the next day.
Woo! Yeah, yeah, I'm just soaking up the story because, you mentioned the rock bottom piece. Everyone's definition is different, but based on what you described, that's a pretty rock bottom in my book. I
Hmm.
mean, you just described a man who is you were hiding from so many things. You were in denial of what you had gone through as a young kid all the way through. You're like, hey, I'm a grown ass man now. This isn't
Hmm.
supposed to affect me. I have no problem issue with this. Yet you're drinking, day drinking, you're passing out in the lawn. Like it was just a matter of time, and I'm so happy to hear that nothing really bad happened, because that happens to a lot of people. That is their rock bottom, right? They end up doing something really chaotic, and it destroys their family, destroys their careers, everything. So I'm glad to hear that you were able to dodge that, because essentially you were well on that path, it sounds like, to where
For
you
sure.
needed something to kick you into gear. So was there a point where you ever thought to yourself, beyond the, yeah, I need to make a change? Was there something holding you back from making that change yourself? And if there was, why?
Uh, fear, fear, the scare of admitting, I guess what you could call defeat, right? Or admitting that I had a problem. My biological parents are both addicts. There's a lot of addiction that runs in my family, so I didn't want to admit that I was headed down that same road, you know? And then the fear of not having support, like if I admit this thing, that if I give up and throw in the towel and say I need help, am I going to have the support that one needs to do that? And lucky for me, the second the words exited my mouth that I needed help, the amount of support that I got was like everybody around me was just waiting me to say it, you know. And the second I said it, all their hands were there and were like, "We got you. We were just waiting for you to make the decision." You know, it was a huge moment. You know, I told my son first. He was 14, I think, at the time. I picked him up from football practice that day after I got found in the grass, and he saw it all over my face, asked me what was wrong. I looked at him and I said, I think I need to get help with my drinking. And he put his arm on my shoulder and said, it's going to be okay. 14, this kid, you know. Um, and that gave me the strength I needed. I went, as soon as I got home, I told my girlfriend, and then my girlfriend, her support was 100%, you know, from the jump. And then I told my family and all of that. Everybody I know in my family that has been through rehab reached out and told me what I could expect, told me it's important to give my all into the process, or I'm not going to really reap the benefits of it. I have to really take it serious and mean it. So I did just that. I dove in, flew out to California from Missouri, where I'm at now, and got into a facility. They do a 5-day detox. They said I don't have to attend any meetings or anything like that, but I woke up the next morning, grabbed my notebook, walked into the meeting, and they were like, "Oh no, you're on detox. You don't have to be in here." I'm like, "No, I'm here for a reason. Let's do this thing." I jumped right in head first. Was vulnerable, opened up, honest, and receptive to all the feedback. I took it really serious, and it's something I don't want to have to do over and over again. I think some people say relapse is a part of recovery. I don't let that enter my brain. That's not how I view it. It's only going to be a part of my recovery story if I let it be a part of my recovery story. I'm not creating that narrative up to this point. You know, over 1,000 days sober, it hasn't been. I've seen a lot of my family go in and out, you know, before they got it right. And I'm hoping I can get it right just this time. But I just take it, you know, day by day. The confidence has grown for sure. That first year of sobriety is really, really tough. But where I stand now, it's an amazing feeling. It's something I've never felt before. You know, if I could bottle it up and give it to people, I would.
And you are right now, honestly. I mean, you sharing your story, this is the whole key to what everybody in this community is doing. Because when you are guys like us who just run like we're alone, right?
Mhm.
And for you to be so amazed at people reaching out of like, oh, you're making this decision, all of a sudden the whole crew just surrounds you, right? And we see that in this community. It's the coolest thing. It's so badass.
Mhm.
And I think it's so vital that guys like yourself are sharing your story, right? Because again, your specific story could turn someone who is about to pass out on that lawn tonight to go, holy shit, I want to make a change here. And I want to honor you 1,000 days, man. Congratulations on that. That's
Thank you.
massive. I mean, just
Thank you.
saying this just gives me goosebumps because I know how hard this is. I know how difficult it is to make that choice and for you to step into rehab with such like, I'm doing this, and they're like, whoa, you don't need to go quite yet, and you're like, no, screw that, I gotta do this, like I need to make this change. Like that's so cool to hear. And I'm with you. I don't think relapse is part of recovery either. I understand it though, and everyone's going to have different viewpoints on how to do this. How does one remove alcohol from their lives? There's a million different ways. But I like your stance. I so
Mhm.
resonate with that because I was the same way. I was held back by fear the entire time. I was with the wrong people. I was so scared that like my identity is drinking. If I stop, am I going to have friends? Like, are people going to support this? And the more that I branched outside of those relationships, I realized, okay, there's tons of people that don't drink, tons of people that are kind of struggling, that are curious, that want to make a change or have made a change for years. And I'm like, oh, it's been so empowering. So now I'm like, I'm done with booze because I have my people and I've got me. I understand that I don't need that in my life. And so, yeah, kudos to you, man. This is such a cool story. I
Thank
want to
you.
just keep rolling, man. So, for those people who are curious about whether rehab is the right avenue for them to take, what's your stance on that, being someone that has gone through that?
Yeah. I mean, I think heading into rehab, I thought that was like I thought there was only two ways to do sobriety was that and that was to go to rehab and attend AA meetings. Like I thought that was it, you know what I mean? Like those are the only things you hear about. Do I think people can get sober without going to rehab? Sure, I do. I think people can. Was that going to be the way I got there? No, that wasn't. I needed a swift kick in the ass and I needed something that was going to show me this was serious. So I think kind of that shock factor is important to some people, specifically to me. You know, I needed to be like, oh, okay, look where you landed. You know, it's time for you to take this serious because I think otherwise I was just going to talk myself into always saying tomorrow and never tomorrow never coming for me. You know, I was just going to keep saying the words. I think that that's really important is to get that shock power factor to see where you landed yourself. But then going through the process of rehab, there's so many tools and information you get that are helpful and help you understand it. You know, for me, one of the fascinating things was learning the science of the brain with addiction in rehab was just so fascinating to me. And it helped me understand cravings and be able to manage them a little bit better when I understood how the brain works with that, you know? But with that said, didn't matter how many notes I took when I got out and got back home, those notes kind of go out the window. You know, once you're in the real world, it's a whole different ball game and it gets challenging. And then you're relying on a lot of yourself just to make the right decisions in the moment, you know? And I don't think I would have been able to navigate those decisions without rehab, without having that time away, that time by myself to really get an understanding of what I wanted to get from this process. It's a lot harder when you're at home trying to say, I'm not going to drink, you know, day by day. And then, as you mentioned, your friend group, you know, they might be reaching out to you. They don't understand how serious it is or how much you want it, you know, and life changed. I did. I have friends that there's no ill will, but we just don't communicate anymore. That it just fell off. And in the beginning, that was kind of a crappy feeling, but now you know, as I grew, I became okay with it. That just wasn't where I fit into that scene anymore, and that's okay. I found different scene. I found a different way of life through fitness and getting healthy, you know, and I found other people that are like-minded that may not have even been through the recovery process, but they are still sober and they care about bettering themselves and care about living a healthy life, you know? And so I found different people that I vibe with. I was concerned going into rehab that I was going to lose part of myself because I've always been funny. And I remember talking to my sister on the phone before I entered. I'm like, what if I'm not funny anymore? You know, and she's like, yeah, and she's like, I don't think that's going to happen. Um, it didn't, you know, I'm obviously hilarious, as you can tell.
Hell yeah.
So I kept that, which was awesome. And it's funny to be this same person but different. You know what I mean? Like there's so
Yeah.
much about me that feels the same, but I love all of the changes that have come along with this new version of myself that I've created. And I'm still creating day by day, brick by brick. I'm always adding another layer and trying to learn something new and better myself in any way I can. I've developed this crazy mental toughness mindset where I try to do 1% better each day, no matter what I'm doing. And it's just been a wild ride. It's great. It's refreshing and it's hard. Don't lose sight of that. If you go through it, it's not like it's easy and it definitely has its tough days, but you definitely get to a part where the rewards all are so worth all of the hard work that you put into it.
Completely agree. I love all that. I wanted to back up and just talk about when you came out of rehab. So you've gone through this stint of rehab. How did you integrate yourself now back into your life and kind of touch on the tools that you built up while you were in there, but also some of the challenging pieces that now you're back into that same environment, if you will. You are a different person with a different mindset, a different drive, that motivation for the 1% better. Talk about that first few months, perhaps after you get home and go, okay, how's this going to work?
Yeah. Yeah. Those first few months are really tough, really rocky. You come back and you realize that you've made change, but then the world around you didn't really make change, right? Like they just kept going on business as usual. And then for me, I still had a chip on my shoulder thinking that like, hey, I went and did all this work. So now I'm owed all of this acknowledgement and understanding, right? Like if we're going out to dinner, my expectation is nobody's going to order a drink because I went to rehab and I fixed myself, right? So you guys need to respect that. Well, that's just not how the world works, and people are allowed to go out to dinner with you and have a drink. It's me working on my problem, it's not their problem. I held on to a lot of the anger. I still had anger. I still was playing the blame game. That 30 days in rehab didn't take that away right away. I wasn't pointing the finger back at myself and my relationship was still taking a hit there, and I had to really break myself down outside of rehab and be vulnerable enough to understand that my girlfriend put her life on hold when I went to rehab and we never got a chance to um, evaluate her feelings and her emotions as she was going through that process. And it took a long time for me to realize that and sit down and hear her out on where her head was at, because when I left to rehab, she was done with me and had to put her emotions on pause and be there to support me. And that never clicked with me until after I had returned home. And that was kind of a turning point, like an aha moment for me, like, oh, okay, this isn't just me fixing myself, like all of my past choices and the choice to go to rehab has affected those loved ones around me too. Um, so you have to be able to really get vulnerable. And as far as the tools go, you just really just have to kind of stay in check with yourself. You have to be really aware of yourself when those moments come up. That would be like when I went back to work. Normally I would go after work and have some drinks with my friends. As my shift would start to end and I would start to get that itch, I learned being vocal was very important to me. Like I had to say it out loud, like, hey, like I'm really having a craving to drink right now. I'm not gonna drink. I just got to get it out. I got to put a voice on it and let people know that that thought is swirling around in there. And for me, being as open as possible was the most important part to me. I had to be vocal at all times. It felt like at times I was meeting somebody, and as I was shaking their hand, I'm telling them like, yeah, I'm in recovery. I just got out of rehab, like it was almost just a natural reaction. I wanted everybody to know and I didn't want to hold on to it because I was trying to come out of a place from holding on to so much things. The other huge tool for me was going to counseling when I came back. I started by going to AA meetings for the first 3 months, and that just wasn't my jam. That wasn't vibing with me. So I incorporated my counseling with it, and I was going once a week to counseling, and that was huge. I was able to revisit those past traumas that I was telling myself I was over, that I wasn't over, and sift through all that pain and emotion that I was hiding from. And once I was able to get, you know, through some of that emotion, I began to even out. And I'd say going into like my year mark or a little bit before, my girlfriend and I, we went to a couples counseling, which was another turning point. communication started to become a lot better. And as my communication with my relationship and healing from my trauma began, my confidence began to come with it, and it just became like the stars were starting to align, and I added health and fitness to it, and it was like another star at the line, and it just kept gaining momentum on the other side rather than having to deal with the struggles. It started to gain momentum on the positive and the confident side.
Mhm. I love it. And guys out there, listen to what he's saying as far as going to counseling and dealing with your emotions. We're men, we don't deal with that shit, right? That's what I mean. It's probably been mirrored for us in our fathers, other people in our lives, and just generationally.
Mhm.
We're taught that we don't talk about that stuff. And if we start to get vulnerable with other people who are terrified of that, they shut down. And now you feel completely alone in that process. So then you turn to the bottle. It's
Mhm.
classic. It is so classic. I know so many people listening to this right now are nodding their heads of like, or they're terrified to even discuss this any further because yeah, it's the hardest work that has to be done. In my opinion, that was the toughest part of sobriety was okay, why am I not comfortable in social environments? Why am I pissed off? Why am I in my hotel room, after drinking and just bawling my eyes out of nowhere? Like I had many of these moments and I just couldn't understand why am I so down? Why am I depressed, right? I dealt with depression a lot of my life and now I've been able to figure out why, right? It's fascinating stuff and there's always resistance there going in and maybe you felt that as well. I know I did going into therapy. I started doing marriage counseling when I was still married years ago. But there was like, it wasn't the right dynamic. I was so guarded of like
Mhm.
really, really wanting to open up. And it wasn't until I finally started dipping into sobriety that, and, I went through my divorce, drank through that, and finally got to a place where it's like, okay, enough's enough. You got to look in the mirror, dude. And you got to be intentional with this. And I did the same thing, Dave. I've been going to therapy once a week for the last 2 years plus
Mhm.
sometimes more if I'm really dealing with some shit that I have to
Yeah.
really pinpoint here. So that's my big advice. I love that you brought that up as an amazing tool because it truly is. But that is tough work because now you're having to swallow these massive truth pills about yourself, and you're feeling stuff that you hate to feel. It's ugly, it's chaotic, but it's beautiful on the other end, like you said, having everything starting to align for you. There's reason for that is because um, you're addressing the real issue there. So
Yeah.
tell me about how your relationship dynamic has changed now that you at this place of sobriety, you guys have been able to go into some couples counseling, some therapy on your behalf and with her. Like how has that changed for maybe someone listening that's really struggling with their relationship because of alcohol, or maybe they're going through sobriety and they can't quite jive with their spouse? What's your take on that?
Gosh, we honestly have never been in a better spot. I think counseling helped us immensely with our communication and listening, and sobriety helped with my temper. So I'm able to stay calm and just being able also just to understand, like I was saying, everything that my girlfriend put on hold for me and being able to appreciate that. I think often I was trying to point blame at everybody for why I was drinking and headed down this spiral, but being able to understand the support and love that was there and embrace that and appreciate it. I have so much appreciation for her staying by my side and really believing in us because she could have walked away, like not many people would want to deal with this shit.
Right, right, right.
So being able to appreciate that, but honestly, the biggest thing was just the counseling helping us get to a good spot with communication. Communication is key, hearing each other, and none of that was going to be possible while I was drinking. I wasn't going to be up for any sort of listening or communicating. It wasn't going to be good. But having a clear head on my shoulders and being able to pour into that counseling process with her and her as well, pour into it was a huge turning point for us. And honestly, we've never been better. We've never been a better team. We're both on the same mindset with health, fitness, trying to make our family that dream that we had always talked about when I was drinking, when I was drinking, I always dreamed about, oh, being a healthy example for the kids and doing this, that, and the other, but none of it was going to get accomplished. And now we're actually doing the thing. Sometimes we'll just look at each other and we're just like, we're doing that thing we talked about. And it's just like the dream is happening in real life right now.
I love it, man. I love it so much. It's so key is to when you have a teammate in this, that's huge, you know.
Mhm.
And does she drink at all or is she sober as well?
She rarely, rarely drinks.
Yeah.
If she goes out to dinner, she'll have like a margarita, which I can't wrap my head around. I don't even know what that means to have one drink.
Yeah, come on. Yeah.
But yeah, that was hard though when I was drinking because she was kind of like um my drinking buddy. So I had that fear of like losing that friendship I had with her. Like that's what in my eyes that's what we did when really I was the one getting wasted and she was having, not nearly as many drinks as I was having. But I was like, oh man, like I'm gonna lose that friendship I had with her, but we have a different and better friendship now, you know what I mean? Along with our relationship that has it's awesome because it's like we're learning this new part of our relationship that wasn't there before and it's such a great part.
Hmm.
But yeah, she does on occasion. We don't really, I can't even tell you if we have alcohol in the house or not. She might have something somewhere. I don't know. Because I know like if her sister or something like that came over, maybe they would have a margarita. I don't, in the beginning, I would have cared. Now I don't even care. I don't even think about it really. I'm just like, whatever. If it's here, it's here. Or maybe there's a seltzer in the fridge. I don't know. But nah, for the most part, she doesn't drink. We're both on that health and fitness kick, grinding it out with goals to meet. And alcohol for me will derail me. And alcohol, as far as like calories and all that goes, for her is not going to help her get to her goals. So
Yeah, so go dig more into that. I want to hear more about this fitness journey. You look amazing, by the way. I mean, I've seen
thank you.
pictures you've posted of you previously deep into your drinking days. I mean, you've made a massive change just physically. You know, your face just looks so much better. You're trim. Like, talk about that and how vital that's been for your journey.
Oh man, that's such a huge piece of my story right now. Uh, about, I don't know, a year to a year and a half ago, I dove into getting back into running, which was how I started this whole process. I told myself, oh, I'm gonna run, and all I care about is being healthy on the inside. Um, I started dropping some weight, which was cool. And the more I looked into fitness and like resistance training and things like that, I thought to myself, like, why am I selling myself short on just caring that I'm like heart healthy when I could be physically fit too? You know what I mean? I've never dove into weight training at all. So I started adding that into the mix, and that was a game changer. And I started to see changes and results there that I liked. I started, being mindful about what I'm ingesting. I mean, eat pretty clean. I'm not like on any like fad diet or anything like that. I just try to eat cleaner, and it's just inspiring. The community that I met through fitness, they are all amazing individuals who have all had huge transformations. And I never thought I would be the guy that's like into going to the gym and hitting the weights, but I love it. I follow programs. I've done the 75 hard program. I'm in the middle of doing the live hard program right now. Um, my it's helped me mentally. Like my mental toughness is just like on a whole nother level right now. If I set a goal, I obtain it. If I tell myself I'm going to do something, there's nothing that's going to stop me from doing it. I'm pursuing my um NASM certification for certified personal trainer and nutrition coach because I'm inspired and I feel like this whole journey starting from rehab on, I felt like it's leading me somewhere, and I just keep saying I don't know where it's leading me, but I have this thought in my head where once I started doing fitness, it started leading me a little bit closer to where I thought I was going. And if I could somehow give back to anybody that's in their 40s thinking that, it's over for them, like you can take control back of your life. The age doesn't matter. You just got to do the work and take control, and you can get healthy and fit. I always wanted to be healthy and fit. I just never had the drive to do it, and now I have the drive. And I think with when I get these certifications, I keep thinking like, how could I incorporate going to like a sober living facility and talking to them about nutrition and giving them a fitness plan, or um, I don't know, opening a gym one day and discounts to people that are in recovery or something like that. I don't know. I love giving back. I just want to give back in any way I can because I love the community, both recovery and fitness, but I'm not in the fitness community if it wasn't for the recovery community. That's my foundation. That's where my heart's always going to be. I've built everything I have right now around that recovery foundation, and I take it very serious, and I want to give back in any way I can. That's why I love doing podcasts and putting a voice on it and talking to people like you. Like everybody I meet is super inspiring, and every story is different, and we're all from different walks of life, but all have the same goal of just getting better, and better than we were, and healing from the past and seeing where tomorrow takes us.
Yeah, it's so cool. I like the fact that you brought up having just something else to focus on, right? Because as a drinker, it's always our number one thing, like our number one priority, right? Is like booze, 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 alcohol. When's the next drink? When can I go drink again? So you're eating up so much mental bandwidth doing that. And you even mentioned making the list, right? "Ah, I'm going to drink on Tuesdays. I'm going to drink on the weekends, my birthday. And then that just gets crumpled, thrown out the window. But fitness is such a game changer. And I used to be such a hater of social media. Now I love it so much because there's so many beautiful stories just like yours, right? Where it's like you see these before and afters. And a lot of times it has to do with fitness, eating right,
Yeah.
right? Because it's like this physical transformation that we can all see when we're scrolling through our feed, and it's huge, and you see all the different ages like you said. Yeah, because you're 40, and I've had people around me say the same thing. Well, I'm 40 now, I just give up. And I'm like, you're gonna give up right now? Like, no, you can do the little things. Like, yes, there are scientific things showing that your metabolism's going to drop off, and that is a total fact. We can't just go and eat Big Macs for lunch every day, but if you just stay consistent and disciplined, like you're a perfect example, right? I mean, how much weight have you lost since you were heavy in your drinking days?
Oh man, my heaviest in my drinky days, I was 250 at my absolute heaviest. And I'm now at 171, I think,
Wow.
which is huge. Entering rehab, I was right around 235, 240. But yeah, I mean, you said two of my favorite words right there, consistency and discipline. Those are those are just like stuck in my head. I don't allow for a lot of excuses in my life. If I wake up and I don't want to do it, I always know I'm going to feel better after I do it anyway. So I don't allow for excuses. I just get it done. I've never been that guy. I never had that confidence. I never had that like, yeah, I'm going to get up and just knock it out. I never had that mentality at all. So it's cool. It's like learning this new version of myself is a trip. Sometimes it kind of trips me out. And sometimes I look in the mirror and I'm like, dog, you're doing that thing that you never thought your ass was going to do. And look at you, dude. It's crazy. And I don't, I'm confident, and maybe I should be more humble, but I don't. I feel good about it. I know I've earned it, and there's something to be said when you earn something too and put in the work, right? Like it's not like this was just handed to me. Like I know every ounce of who I am today, I've worked for over 1,000 days. I put everything I could into it. And so I'm proud of that shit, and I want to talk about it, and I want to put a face and words and all of that to it and let people see that, these things can happen. You can obtain them, and you've got to get away from the fear and away from the excuses, because the only one stopping anybody from getting anywhere is themselves.
Exactly. Bingo. And don't ever be humble on this, Dave. I mean, you have the receipts to show that you got this done. And it's something that's going to be so neat for you wherever this path takes you, this fitness journey, or like you said, you're not quite sure where it's going to go, but that's such a cool path to be on versus the brick wall we kept hitting with drinking. We're not progressing at all. But now that you're on this cool path, it's going to be so neat for you to have this to show others and to get people motivated to be disciplined, to be consistent, because you can show them, look, this is what I was. This is who I am now. Do you want to be that person? Because I got the guide, I have the blueprint, and I want to give it to you, and that's what's so empowering for people to see is like, oh my God, like if he could do that, like why can't I? And for you to be able to lead people down that path, how cool is that? It perhaps is your calling. You know what I mean? I mean, this is the kind of
Yeah,
thing where you feel that of like, I'm not sure where this is going, but I like where it's headed. Keep that up, man, and keep building that confidence because you deserve to be that confident person. That's what's so cool about seeing and hearing these stories is so many beautiful people are being destroyed by alcohol. And I
hmm,
hammer that point home consistently. And I know you can think of 5 people on the top of your head right now that it's happening to, and I can too. And it's so sad to watch, but it's so cool to see guys like you having turned the corner and be able to be that person that you genuinely are. Like this is who you genuinely are, and it's new to you, but this is you. You are the confident person, the guy hitting the weights, doing the thing. So don't forget that, and same thing with anybody listening, like you're a badass person. There's just things that happen to us over time that either we didn't ask for or we also don't know how to handle because it did happen to us. And if we just numb that out, you're never going to be able to go down those cool paths like we just described. So awesome stuff, man.
for
Keep
sure.
that freaking rolling and keep that energy going in that direction because I know it's going to a beautiful place. So I'm stoked to see where you end up with this whole thing.
Thanks, man. I appreciate all that. That was nice. Thank you. Yeah, I just keep grinding, stay focused, and I've told myself for a while now it's gonna end up somewhere. I just don't, I'm excited to see where it ends up, but I'm not pushing it either, I'm gonna get there as long as I just keep staying consistent with everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's a question for you. What's been the biggest surprise out of sobriety for you?
The biggest surprise. I think the biggest surprise is kind of what I was touching on with the confidence. Like I didn't think I could feel as confident as I am now, especially right before going into rehab and starting the recovery process. I was super scared, super insecure, and I just I didn't think I didn't even know what this feels like. I didn't even know what confidence felt like, right? And now to have this it's an amazing gift to have, but I think also the the connection that I'm gaining with my kids and my relationship, like that level up there with them is like I knew it would improve, but to actually feel it and like my oldest son, he's 16 now, and for him to want to lean on me and trust me and talk to me about things, I know that that wouldn't happen if I was drinking. I know I wouldn't be his go-to guy with things like that, and as my daughter is entering high school and our other son is entering high school, like I want to be there for them, and I think that they're feeling like that I'm an actual option, right? And it's a thing that I don't think I was given them before, and I think they saw a lot of the shitty side of me, but it's so good that this change that I made happened when it did because it's giving them the opportunity as they're going through some like really important years in their life to be able to know that they can count on somebody that's there for them and can just talk to, lean on, and I'm going to be coherent for it and not, half passed out or not paying attention. I mean, I can go on with the gifts. There's so many, but those are two huge ones, But yeah, the confidence, the fitness is also surprising. I never thought I would be the fitness guy, but you know,
But you are. I mean,
yeah,
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 you absolutely are. I mean, it's so cool to see. I love, like I said, those before and afters. I was like, holy shit, man.
yeah,
That's called a transformation, right?
yeah.
Here's one for you. What advice would you give parents that are struggling with alcohol addiction on how to rebuild trust with their families?
Consistency is that there's that word again, right? Like you can't sorry yourself into making somebody trust that you're not going to make the same mistake again. You have to show it day in and day out. You have to be consistent, and um, your actions are going to show how serious that you're taking things and wanting that change. Trust isn't going to be built overnight. You just have to be consistent and keep showing up for yourself and for everybody, proving to them that you are going to be there and not fall back to that person that you were before. Obviously, depending on the mistakes that were made is going to change the time scope on what somebody needs to see. But
Mhm.
I think consistency is huge with that. You have to keep showing up for them and being there for them and showing that you're different.
I love that. What are you teaching your kids about alcohol now?
I have a really open dialogue with them about it. I'm not naive to the fact that it's something they're gonna probably try someday. And I think that it's super important to have that open communication about it because the main thing I want to drive home with them is that I'm not going to be upset if it happens. I want them safe is the number one most important thing. So if you're at a party, call me. I'm picking you up. It's all good. I'm not going to be drunk and I'll pick you up. So give me a call and I'll be there. I think it's important to know that, like, I'm not going to be mad, but also I want them to know that just because I'm in recovery doesn't mean they should shy away from talking to me about it. It's not going to rock my world. I want them to feel safe talking to me about it. I don't want them to think that that's going to mess up my recovery in any type of way, that I'm here for them. Hopefully, they don't go through the same challenges I did, but if they do, I'm going to stand by them and be there for them and help them in whatever way they need. But we do have an open communication about it. My son went to his prom and he let me know that he had some drinks at prom, but he was safe. He got a ride home, sober driver. And I was super appreciative that he was honest with me about it. There was no heated conversation. There was just a lot of understanding. And what I appreciate most about it is his honesty. He was upfront with me because I don't think a lot of people get that. And a lot of parents might overreact to situations like that. And I just don't think that's the way to handle anything. You need to give that safe space to your kids to let them feel like they can talk to you about these things because they're important. I'm not gonna try to rule them with fear. I'm gonna try to be realistic about it. Like these things are gonna happen. So let's just be open and talk about it.
Yes, yes, I'm with you 1,000%. It's exactly what I think is the best method. As much as I would love to see both, I have two daughters. They're going to be 10 and 8 here this summer. And of course, I'd love to see them not drink, when they become adults. But I also realize that they're two little individuals. They're going to be who they want to be. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. Opening that line of communication is so key, right? Because at least now you and your son have that cool discussion. So your son's not going, I'm at this party, like everyone's telling me to drink, so I'm just gonna plow down the 6 shots of tequila like you talked about, right? Without understanding or having anybody to discuss that confusing situation with. So it's so cool that you could be like, well, here, son, like, let me tell you some stories. Like, I just want you to know, you do you, but just understand that if you go this distance with this of like really drinking a lot, if you drive while you're drunk, like here are things you need to consider if you make that choice. But the choice is going to be yours. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life. I don't want to control you, if you will. I want you to develop into who you are and be empowered to make your own decisions. But also know that if you're struggling with something, you can reach out to dad at any time. And that's been what I've done with my kids. I'm obviously just leading by example. They're always curious, like they'll come home and see this, contraption set up for these podcast recordings. And I explained to them, I said, they're like, what'd you do this morning? I said, I had a really cool discussion with a gal who also decided to quit drinking alcohol. And I don't say, and you guys better not be drinking alcohol when you get older either, right? I
Right,
leave that out because I
right.
want them to just kind of see and observe and watch and be like, oh, that's interesting. And we talk about it and I tell them why I don't drink anymore. And we leave it at that. And it'll be cool to see how that blossoms over time. But that's so cool that you have that going, that it's not like this shameful thing you don't want to discuss with your kids, because then it's when they're left in the dark. That's when kids start to feel out of sorts. If you just tell them what's up, they immediately the dots connect in their brain. They're like, cool. And they move on.
Definitely. Yeah. Totally agree. Yeah, my kids are also lucky. We are blended family. Me, my girlfriend, my ex-wife, her fiance. Like we all get along too. So it's beautiful. The kids can lean on any. They have four parents there helping them out. And I know how, I don't take that for granted. I know how lucky we are that we could all get along and be there for the kids because I know not everybody has that.
No, no, absolutely not. Just the more open communication you can have with people in general,
Mm,
certainly parents and extended family, the better. It's
mm.
just when you leave children in the dark, that's when their mental health takes a major hit, as we know. And I know that from growing up, like I was so naive to so many things and to drinking too. It was like I did not drink until my senior trip in high school because I was in athletics. Like I loved playing basketball, soccer. Like to me, there was something in me of like I wanted to have the edge. You know, I wasn't out partying. I was the guy showing up to practice while the rest of my buddies were hung over as shit, and I was running circles around them. I'm like, you guys
Uh,
are idiots. But then the insecurity in me got the best of me. But I wouldn't give that up for anything. My journey is my journey, and it's been so cool. It wouldn't have led me here talking to you, right? So it's really
sure.
neat. Um, but I wanted to totally shift gears. If you were to have a discussion with your younger self as you are today about sobriety, what would that look like and how would that look?
Oh man. First, that knucklehead would have to listen to me, right? I don't know if that would happen.
Yeah, that's right. That'd be the toughest part of that equation.
Yeah, yeah. But the main thing I would want him to know is that none of it was his fault. You know, these things that happen that are not great things wasn't his fault. You know, it was life was dealt him a shitty hand, but he needs to learn how to move forward, forgive those around him that may have made shitty choices, and forgive himself, and truly just let it sink in that it's not his fault and that he's a good person and he's he's loved. He's a good guy. And I think that I didn't think I was a good guy for a long time. I thought I was defined by my past. I thought that the mistakes I made defined me, and they don't. They're part of my story, but they don't define who I am.
It's so true. It's absolutely the truth. I would think if I was to talk to my younger self, be very similar conversation. It'd be
Mm,
more of you don't need alcohol in your life. You just don't realize that. You know, you think that you need that to be you. You
mm,
just need to be you, but understanding of the fear behind that. And we're all
yeah,
fearful of being ourselves. It still comes up even when you start getting comfortable being yourself. You're having to rewire that in your brain of reminding yourself, no, you get to be you. Just be you. People want you to be you. If you're not you, you're withholding that from the world. You know, if you think of it from that standpoint, like how sad is that, right? If Dave, if you were just you and I just were the guys showing up to the brewery getting shit faced every Wednesday. That's all we did for the next 20 years. How sad is that for this world of what we were actually on this planet to do. And you and I are finally getting a taste of it. And
hmm,
that's a whole new addiction, right? Like,
yeah,
oh, whoa, like this life has given me some really cool, some doors are flying open, some cool people are being placed in our life. And that's the best part. So that'd be a great, fun conversation to have with our youngest selves of like, hey, it's all going to be good, but like, don't be scared and just plow through the fear and you're going to have amazing things happen on the other end. So, yeah, it's just
for
really cool to
sure.
think about.
I love that. Yeah.
So, I want to wrap this up, man. So, how do we get a hold of Dave? If we're a listener here and we like your story, we think you're a cool dude, we want to go drop 80 pounds and just be a total badass. How do we get a hold of you?
I have two Instagram accounts. I have DJ Sober Shorts and Rush Factor Fitness. And if you can't get a hold of me and you want to drop 80 pounds, just put in the work. Okay. That's what I
It's
gotta
that
say. Just,
easy.
yeah, just do the work. Show up. Okay.
Heck yeah, it's true though. So tell me, how'd you come up with the DJ Sober Shorts
My
as
middle,
your username?
my middle name is Jay, Jay. So
Okay,
it's,
got it,
yeah,
got
I
it.
know everybody asks me if I'm a DJ and I never even thought about that when I put that name out there.
That's what I thought because I'm like, I love electronic music. I was like, holy shit, if he's like a total DJ
Yeah, no,
whiz, I'm gonna love to have that discussion because I want to learn.
no, not at all. And then sober shorts because I wear shorts all the time. And so
Okay.
I'm a shorts guy. I don't know. I was floundering thinking of a name, and that's what I came up with. And then the Rush Factor Fitness, Rushing's my last name, and Factor Fitness. I don't know, it flowed.
Dude, I love it, man. Yeah, I was so curious. It's always fun to hear the little backstories on why we come up with stuff.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I love it.
So, last thing, if you've got a listener who wants to take this next step, they're like, okay, enough's enough. I want to step into removing alcohol from my life. What is one step that you can give someone today listening to get them on this journey?
I would say take the step. Quit thinking about it, take the step. You're not going to know what comes after that first step if you don't take the first one. You got to take it and then put your next foot in front of the other and continue that process. I always say, don't Monday yourself to death, because I always used to say on Monday I'll start over. On Monday I won't have a drink, but don't Monday yourself to death. You don't need to wait till 4th of July is over. You don't need to wait till summer ends or the holidays hit or any of that. You can start right now. You don't have to wait for anything. There's no time frame on it. But if you just keep Mondaying yourself, you're never going to take that first step. Get past the fear, get past the shame, the guilt, whatever it is you're holding on to, and put yourself first and make that first step.
You hear that, folks? Quit waiting. As you can
Hmm.
tell, you got two guys here that have made that decision. As fearful as it was, we are so far on the other end, and life has become so beautiful in so many ways, and alcohol has become an absolute distant memory. So, if you want to hop on that journey, reach out to either one of us. Again, Dave, the DJ Shorts, DJ Sober Shorts, and then myself at Join Sober Identity. Happy to talk about this stuff anytime you want. Shoot us a message and we're happy to chat. But Dave, appreciate you, man. I appreciate your stories. Your level of vulnerability does not go unnoticed here. And I hope everybody listening appreciated what Dave had to say as well. But thank you so much for your time, man. And
Thank
looking
you.
forward to the next time we can chat, buddy.
Absolutely. Thank you, my man. Pleasure.
All right, we'll see you.
See ya.